Hey, everybody. Welcome to our first Monday meeting. Or I guess it's our second Monday meeting in September. Honestly, the day actually, I think it's the first because we didn't go on Labor Day. So, welcome to our first in-season meeting. In any case, our speaker tonight is Billy D. Williams, who is a referee in the Mid American Conference. Billy's going to talk about trust in the system. Billy, the floor is yours.
Brilliant. Thank you, sir. So everybody, wanted to talk a little bit about football and the crew makeup and what we do in order to get ourselves motivated to do the things that we do called football. And so what I got here is a short presentation to kind of get us started, and then go through some plays here. So talk about good officials get games and great officials get bowl games. And so we want to be great. And, when we talk about bowl games, we talk about playoffs. Point is that, everyone wants to be a good official, but we really want to be great. So, part of doing that is understanding what the system is and how we use it. And so during the off season, Mr. Carollo talked a little bit about a book called Good to Great, which is by Jim Collins. And it basically talks about what it takes for ordinary companies to become great and outperform their competitors. And they did a bunch of analysis and, did a bunch of research. And the point is that, these companies either made the transition to being great or they basically fell prey to bad habits and went out of business. And as I was, really listening and reading this, I wanted to apply it to officiating. Obviously it's made for sales, but I really heard a statement that was in there. He talked about the culture of discipline. I say one of the quotes out of there is disciplined people who engaged in disciplined thought and who take disciplined action, operating with freedom within a framework of responsibilities. This is the cornerstone of a culture that creates greatness within a consistent system or a framework. Meaning that basically, if we know what it is our jobs are, and we know what it is the expectations are of us, and we are consistent in how we go from play to play, day to day, game to game, situation to situation, we have the ability to be great. And so I was like, man, that if that doesn't sound like officiating, I don't know what does, right? We've got rules, we've got mechanics, we have philosophy and best practice. And all of those are provided to our officials as a framework. And then officials are given the freedom and responsibility, by the way, to work within that framework to officiate the game. So as we talk about that, it's like, okay, so that whole system, that framework, let's talk a little bit more about those details of rules, mechanics, and best practices. So what's the system? How do we recognize it? How do we use it? Right. So we talked about rules, we talked about mechanics, we talked about philosophy. So we got some folks out here on the call. You guys didn't come here to watch me talk, because as much fun as that sounds, I think it's more interesting for us to have a dialogue. So just anybody who's got some thoughts here. So why would one crew average 27 fouls a game and another 17?
Preventive officiating.
Preventive officiating. So what about preventive officiating would put you on one end or the other?
When you can talk to players more than penalizing them on minor things and just focus on the major things.
There you go. So that's philosophy, right? What other reasons would we have?
I do think there's a lot about, the difference between the letter of the law and the spirit of the rules, right? There are some situations in which I recognize that's a philosophy statement too.
Sure.
Those are situations in which we can get by without a foul as long as we can, develop the rapport with the player to fix a problem or things like that, which is kind of what James was talking about as well.
That's it, right? So then when we talk about one official calls 50 fouls in a season, and another has 30, what would be our reasons for that?
Ask Daddy right there. Tell him to close it tightly.
Well, that would be one reason. What else you got? All right, Stouty, what you got for me?
I wasn't prepared. I'm not really on to this yet. I didn't even hear what the question was. Sorry.
All right. So why would one official call 50 fouls in a season and another only call 30?
Too technical?
Too technical. Right? That's a solid reason.
One that looks for fouls versus letting them come to them and open up to them.
There you go. Right. So, one of the things we talk about is, rules knowledge, game management, leadership direction, right? If your boss wants you to call more fouls, you want to keep getting assignments. It's probably in your best interest to get on it. Sometimes it's the quality of the games you're working, right? If we can talk about, we have some teams or some levels of play where, the the quality of play or the quality of coaching just isn't there, right? And there's nothing you can do about that. So you got to figure out how do we make those calls. Your crew culture matters. It's very interesting how we talk about what your boss wants and we talk about what are points of emphasis from week to week, but crew culture is a thing, right? We can have a crew where week to week we got a referee that's harping on something, or we as a crew have had some bad experiences, whether it's through evaluation or through incident that happened during the season. Maybe a fight broke out in a game, and so we're super sensitive to certain issues and situations. So that comes up there as well. So the next question then is, what do you do when you make a call but may need help or aren't sure the clarity of what you saw? So you got a flag down, you blow your whistle. What are we going to do next? Tony Romano, what you got for me, buddy?
Well, this has happened to me before. We all have officiating partners, whether it's the person across from you or the person next to you. There's a good chance that there's someone there that you can ask for help. And you could just flat out say, look, I threw my flag. I might have gone a little bit too fast. I felt okay about it at the time. Do you have anything that could help me out? And then the other thing to do is have the guts to pick up the flag.
Right. Yeah.
Or tell your partner to pick it up.
That's the other part of it, right? Yeah. Also important, right? Being a good crewmate, being a good person. It's not just when you make a call, but when your partner, your crewmate makes a call and you've got shared responsibility for area, understanding your mechanics is important, but not just the mechanics for your position, the mechanics for the crew on the field. You're not out there by yourself. For those of us who have replay, understanding replay rules, knowing where we can get help from there, right? That's another thing that's useful. Any other ideas out there as far as where we could go for help?
Well, what we've run into sometimes, I know for myself, sometimes throwing on somebody else's key and going to that person or that person that you had somebody throw on your key, make sure you go get to that person and talk things over, because maybe they obviously saw something that you didn't, and having that kind of conversation and then resulting in picking up a flag or keeping it down.
That's it. And it helps a ton when oh shoot, whose key did I just throw on, as opposed to throwing a flag and randomly running around to whoever has stripes on. Hey, did you see that? That doesn't help. And so that's part of how we recognize together, right? We can use our pregame to determine some of those things, right? We can go through some plays and some difficult situations. So, jumping ahead to the next question there, right? So how do we work with our crew between games or to resolve issues we find in film review or we get in game feedback?
I think a document, where everybody's sharing comments and working toward, the stuff that's internal to the crew that we know isn't going to get out about, hey, I really needed help on this play, or, I don't think, whoever, I don't think that's a foul, and here's why I don't think that's a foul, and how do you want this communicated, and things like that, so that you can work together to start to have those conversations during the week and not having to save them all for pregame.
That's right. Yeah, if we're waiting until Friday or Saturday to have our conversations about issues that we saw Saturday night and Sunday, we're doing ourselves an injustice, right? There's a lot we can do with those other 6 days, between the various study groups and the folks that are the folks that you work with week to week. That we definitely want to make the most of those opportunities. Who else can we talk to outside of our crew to get some input there or some assistance?
Mentor.
And I always found that interesting. So you say a mentor, right? So let me ask you about that, because that's always an interesting conversation. So how do you determine who's a good mentor, and how long are they your mentor?
I have always been very upfront about that, and ask someone if they'd be willing to do that for me. And then they agree. If they don't have time for it, or they have other people that they're working with, they may say no, but I've always had 1 or 2 people at least that I've asked to play that role for me and talk with them about what that means. Here's what I'm looking for. That way we don't go down some path that neither of us are happy with. And it's usually someone that I respect. It's usually someone who is at a higher level than I am, who has more experience, who has seen many more things than I have. And I trust their judgment. They've proven to me that their judgment is worthy of listening to, and it's been a big help for me at various levels, and hopefully I can do that for other people as well.
Absolutely. The other thing I'd say is, you got sometimes you have your crew veterans, right? Sometimes they're good folks to lean on. If you've got someone who's been in the league for a while, and they know the philosophies of the organization that you're working within, those folks, those those vets, they can take you a long way from being stressed out to being comfortable, whether that's in the game or after the game. So you definitely want to lean on those folks if you can. The one thing I'll say about mentors is that Tony brought up a really good point. As you're moving along in your career, your mentors might have to change. Right? It doesn't do you a lot of good to have a mentor. It's good to have friends. Friends are good. We all need friends. But as we move along, and whether you're changing positions, changing organizations, changing levels of play, sometimes you got to switch up your mentors and find new folks who are working the next level up, or the new veteran at the level that you're working, or the organization that you're working, to make sure that you're doing the things that are on track to be relevant to where you are. And that doesn't mean that you can't still lean on those folks that you were working with before. They know you, and so having someone that has a background with you, knows who you are, knows about your fishing experience. There's a lot that goes with that, and just be aware though that they shouldn't be the only voice you hear. The other thing about when you're looking to resolve issues, I've found that whether a phone call is always good, an email is cool too, but having video, right? We don't want to just talk about the guy in the place when that one play at 338 where we had the pass that went over and the guy reached for it. Like none of that stuff is helping us out, right? We have video. Doesn't matter if you need to go out on YouTube to find it. We've got Huddle, we've got Catapult, we've got DB Sport, we've got 4 or 5 other systems that are out there, RefQuest. I know when I started in basketball, I used to have I bought a video camera and had my girlfriend come out and record basketball games, and then I used to take the same video camera and have her stand up in the corner and she's running the video so I could look at my JV games. And if you want to get better, that's part of the process. And then as you're trying to have conversations that make sense, one thing is to talk about philosophies, but don't leave out the other things, right? We've got the mechanics manual, we've got the rule books, and all that stuff is out there as references and resources to help you get to the right answers. So, those things collectively are what make up the system. That's the stuff that gives us all the background so that when it comes time for game day, we've got all the necessary framework for us to be able to execute and the freedom to be the best official we can be. Are there any questions about that or anything to add? Super. So, but discipline alone isn't enough. So we discussed the things that make up your system, but there's more than discipline that's needed, right? You got to be, I mentioned being a good crewmate, being a good person that matters. I believe it or not, over the summer, I was out at a clinic out in southern Utah, and I'm standing on the field watching some officials out there work, and this guy standing next to me, and we just start talking, and I look over at his shirt and I realize he's the head coach for the team. And as we're talking, this guy looks familiar to me, and he realizes I look kind of familiar to him. And I said, I believe we know each other. I said, you might not remember me, but I've worked some games on your field. And wouldn't you know it, go back to the beginning of my college football career, and I was working side judge right on his sideline for 3 seasons. And that was back when he was working D3 football. And now he's working FBS football in southern Utah. And sure enough, he remembered me. And that was not a recent, that was a good number of years ago. But the point is, he had a smile, he shook my hand, he said it was great to see me, and he remembered who I was. And so, that kind of goes back to the next bullet there. No matter where you go or who there's people who know who you are. So, that goes back to number one, being a good person matters. There's plenty of times where we have the opportunity to make our snarky remarks to coaches or to players, assistant coaches, other fellow officials. And, there's no need to do that. You can take the high road, and trust me, you'll be respected more for it in the long run. Obviously trust the system and do your job. Know the game mechanics, no matter your position, know the rules so you know how to manage the game. We talked about that. And then know the philosophy so you're consistent in how to apply the rules. As they say, you are paid for your judgment. Your philosophies will be provided to you. Until you start assigning games, no one is interested in your philosophies. Keep that deep in your pockets, and keep that, make sure you don't forget that. Because when you start coming up with your own philosophies, they're not in line with the guy or gal that assigns whether or not you work. You might not be working too long. I'm a firm believer that, everyone who's an official on the football field should be a leader. And leadership begins not when others trust you, but when you trust yourself. And that's a pretty solid baseline. Now That doesn't mean you suddenly become a leader because you trust yourself, but that's when it begins. So, and part of trusting yourself is having a working understanding of those previous things that are part of the system. And then working with others and having that framework so that you have not only the foundation of rules, mechanics, and philosophies, but you also have the foundation of people that you can work with and fellow officials that you can help and grow with, whether that's your crewmates, your veterans, or your mentors. And then, the last part of all this, and I think we have quite a few folks looking through the list here of folks that are definitely firm examples of this, right? Complacency is the enemy of being great. You got to be consistent, right? You figure out what your weekly routine is. You figure out who are the folks that you're going to work with. And if you really want to be great, you're working to get those bowl games and those postseasons, and you're wanting to move up, you got to do the work. And we cannot be complacent, because that's how, we can fall off. Now, here's the other thing to remember, though, right? Whether we're talking about in game, between games, or between seasons, that complacency is real. But just because you have a bad game, just because you have a bad season, just because you have challenges off of the field, out of the stadium, out of the crew, within the crew, that does not determine your future. You still have the opportunity to make a decision on what you want to do next. And, I fully recognize the fact that there's things that go on in life outside of sports. We all have families, we all have jobs, we all have lives in some form or fashion. And we are all people, and not just robots wearing stripes. And that matters, right? That's that part of being a good person and recognizing that amongst each other, so we can pull each other up and help each other out when somebody's down. And when you're the one that's down, know that there's a entire community of folks in some form or another that are here to support you. So don't feel that if you're on a bad run, whether it's a bad play, a bad game, a bad season, it's not over. If you want to continue to do this, you can. And hey, you know what? If you decide because of things off of the field that this is it, you still have a family, and we're still here for you. And that's important too. Just wanted to kind of lay that out as the framework for us to get started. And we'll take a look at some plays to discuss how the system and how the mechanics work, how we lean on each other to get there. But before I jump into plays, are there any questions or comments from the audience? Nope. Okay. Hey, Seth, by the way, good to see you out there, man. Glad you could join us today. So I was going to kick us off with a referee announcements. And one of the things that that come up with referee announcements, I'm not going to get into this play, but we'll just say there was a very long and drawn out situation that occurred, where there was a play that happened. We end up with a foul, and during the play, and then after the play, a complete melee breaks out. You have bench clearing brawl where both teams are in the middle of the field, and this is a professional football game. And we're going to get together. We're going to have a whole conversation that probably lasts about almost 90 seconds. And we look at the time and score, right? We got 7-19. So, we got a 2-8 team and a 7-4 team. So we could see this is the tale of two seasons. And we're late in the season at that. 11:54 in the fourth quarter. So tempers have probably been flaring up. And now we're going to try to figure out how to make an announcement. And I just want you to hear the announcement. And I want you to think about yourself in this situation not just as the official who's thrown their flag, but as the official who has to make this announcement. So let's go through and see what we have here.
Here we go.
There were multiple fouls by both teams, both during and after the play. During the play, personal foul, interference with the opportunity to catch the kick by the kicking team, number 80. During the return, personal foul, illegal blindside block by the return team, number 86. By rule, Miami is elected to enforce the kick-catch interference foul from the previous spot, replay 4th down. After the play was over, personal foul, unnecessary roughness by Cincinnati, number 36, Miami, number 11. Also, unsportsmanlike conduct by Cincinnati, number 22. Number 36 from Cincinnati, number 11 from Miami, and number 86 from Miami are all disqualified from the game. It'll be 4th down.
So I don't know about you all, but that is a nightmare come true, right? I think we end up getting the total.
So a total of 3 ejections. I thought there'd be a little bit more, but they keep it at 3.
Yeah, I thought there'd be more. I can only remember 3, right? Like, holy smoke. So, we talk about mechanics and what it takes to get stuff. Great job by Ron Tarbert in trying to go through this. And I'll tell you, it didn't happen alone, right? You've got to, a lot of that information you're getting from your crewmates to know who the fouls are on, what was the number, which direction, right? All that comes together. Now, here we are. This is obviously during the COVID year, so we're not in a stadium full of people. So we didn't have to deal with the booze and all the rest of that. But the point is, in order to get through that, we got to trust somebody on the crew, and probably quite a few folks on the crew, to get that information to us. So now the question is, as you go through the process of, throwing a flag and having the conversation with, the other person or people that have the same coverage area as you, and now you're going to go give the information to the referee. How many times have you, had a situation where there's multiple fouls and you're like, well, I know my foul. I had a hold on 23 of the defense. You're like, okay. And then you're done, right? You're like, yeah, that's it. And then the next official comes out and I got a block in the back, 23 of the kicking team. Like, all right. And I'm done. And now we walk away and the referee's trying to figure out, all right, so what are we going to do? And, it's one of those things where somebody on the crew has to step up and help out, even if the referee says, I got it, no worries, no problem. As you can tell, this is, without a question, one of the top referees in the country. When it all goes down and it gets crazy, you just don't know what's going to happen. And just having someone there to help you out goes a long way. So, we start from crazy and we'll bring ourselves back to some college plays. How about that? So anything else as far as, do we have any referees online other than the great Tony Romano and Nick Brigatti?
I only play one on TV.
Exactly. Well, Nick, I mean, in your situations, do you have anything as far as having someone there with you, or do you not see too many multiple foul plays?
I mean, I mostly refereed. I'll put professional in quotes, some indoor stuff around, around the West, and you can get some weird things there, and you definitely need somebody around for those situations where you get 3 fouls and an ejection and you got to figure out what you're going to do with it. So yeah, I think it's super helpful to have somebody who's going to be out of frame, but near you to help out.
And is that a pregame conversation that you have, or is there like a designated person on the crew to do that with you?
Once you screw it up once, it's definitely a pregame discussion you have.
Facts. I can tell you, I usually try to lean on my back judge, just because during most penalty enforcement situations, the back judge is there as a backup. So usually they're air quotes free to assist with things like, when you have replay situations, they can be the scribe. And then as far as penalty situations, especially when there's multiple fouls, they could be helpful. Ideally, right, probably the best person is your center judge, because they're the ones, or your umpire, because they're the ones that are getting all the information. The problem is they're part of the process for walking off penalties. So remember, you don't want to lose efficiency with something that needs to get done by trying to get assistance with some ancillary stuff. So once again, understanding mechanics, we want to make sure that we're not going to impact other things that need to happen. So let's take a look at some plays. So this one is a pretty air quote straightforward situation. So one of the things I like to do as we go through these play situations is to start with the basics. So obviously we look at time and score. So we've got a 38-0 game. We're looking at records. We got a 1-1 team and an 0-2 team. So they're thankfully the 0-2 team is the team that's up. So the temperature of the game shouldn't be an issue, unless of course the team that's down decides that they want to impose their will. And it just so looks like the team that's punting is the team that's up. We're early in the fourth quarter, so we don't have any timing rule issues. And we've got 4th and 5, so it looks like we're in a punt formation. And looking at what the defense is doing here, it looks like they're bringing the house. So,
Billy, I would point out that it is definitely not 4th and 5.
It's definitely not 4th and 5. Oh yeah, look at that, because we've got the back stake there, huh? So something's wrong. It's probably more like 4th and 9. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah. So once again, looking at reality. So we can pay attention to the bugs, but let's make sure we're doing our job and looking at what's going on. So I'm going to jump over to our camera 7 here so we can see the crew. So as we go through this, we want to see who's responsible for what, right? So I've got my center judge. It's going to be paying attention to our shield. We've got our line of scrimmage over here is going to be looking for our formation situation. Our deep wing is looking at our gunners. Our back judge is positioned well with our receiver. And our referee is going to have an eye on our kicker once the snap has been cleared. Did I leave anything out or anything else we want to make sure we cover as we're looking at play coverage? What's our umpire doing besides holding up the center? We're going to watch at the snap what happens with impact with the defense on the center, on the snapper. And then we're looking for any action with these middle three as far as holds or takedowns or any craziness like that, right? Super. So I'm gonna let this play out and see how things look. So we see our back judge make an adjustment with our kicker, our receiver, deepest receiver. We get a snap. So far, so good. And now we've got a block. All right. So we've got a block kick. So what are we concerned about in a block kick situation? First thing we're concerned about is that we've got contact with the kicker, right? So we got the kicker getting spun around here. So referee has to know who's the player that hit the kicker, and the only person who's protected is the person that got the ball, right? And we'll see a signal from the referee showing that we have a tip. All right, good times. So Besides, oh shoot, we now have a center judge who's responsible to do what? Get to the goal line. And now our line of scrimmage officials are responsible for the goal line as well. Our deep wings are now responsible for forward progress. Back judge, umpire are responsible for cleanup. So far, so fun. See how we do. We get a recovery with the player on the ground. We have our line of scrimmage official. Since the play pretty much finished right in front of his feet, he's going to take responsibility for this play as opposed to having the deep wing who's 60 some odd yards away run up here to get the spot. Great coverage. Nice and easy. We're all in position. If it was any easier, it would look like a regular scrimmage play. As we look at, let's see here. We jumped to the next play. Yeah, we did. We didn't want to do that. As we look at our wide view, the officials in the middle do what they need to do. Make sure they get the play covered as well. See, our center judge broke out and got to the goal line without too many issues. So, point being that right, we gotta be ready to do what we need to do to cover the play, but at the same time, trust that we're all in position to get what we need. Pretty straightforward, very exciting. Let's move on to our next play. So, look at the same game. Just our, let's see, what do we have here? Our umpire almost being taken out. What's going on? Did I grab the wrong play? I may have. All right. Not well. Sorry about that, folks. All right. So here's an interesting play. I picked one not from our game, but it's definitely an interesting play. So we look at time and score. I got 17-6. We're in the third quarter, 12:08. 2nd and 7. Where are we? We're in the red zone, right? So that means we're going to stay with our keys just a little bit longer. Don't have a great view of this formation, but we see that we've got 2 in the backfield here. There's some folks over there, and we got a tight bunch happening. And what's going to happen is now we get this shift. And it's a sudden shift. So now, as we got this shift, what do we need to do? We've got to adjust our keys, right? So we went from a situation where we had, going to do some drawing here to help you out. Got a, oh, help me out. There we go. Got a guy that's off the line here, a guy that's off the line here. This guy stepped up and said he's off. So that makes this guy the end of the line. And we have a back. So this one's easy. This guy belongs to the deep wing. We don't have a receiver over here. So we're going to freelance as the deep wing over here. But now I have 1, 2, 3 backs. So I didn't see Mark online, so I'm going to ask Nick. Nick, as just based on what you can see here, which line of scrimmage guy is getting which player?
Well, you know, if we've got multiple backs, we're going to deal with whoever comes at me primarily. And
All
and
right.
if there are 2 back, you know, if there are 3 backs, I would posit that probably the line judge is going to take the extra back too.
Okay. And then as the back judge, you're going to look at this as a bunch and wait to see what happens. So far so interesting, but it definitely looks like definitely an odd situation. So now we get the shift. And now it really gets weird. So my question is, there's some stuff that's happening here that's important, and I think our line of scrimmage officials hopefully notice it. So what's this guy signaling? He's signaling he's off, right? Which means he's not on the line. So I got this guy off. So now we have to see what happens over here. But does anyone notice anything about this guy that's interesting? I'll help you out. That first number is a 7. Which means what? He's
not
not
gonna
an
be
eligible receiver. So great to pick up frame by frame, but not something we immediately might have noticed. But what does that mean for us as we're looking at this play? Well, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eligible receivers.
Well, depending upon the number of the backside tackle.
That guy?
Yep.
There you go. That's my guy. So we got a suspect out here who might be an eligible receiver. And that is going to be important as we watch this play happen. So I'll rewind it again and let you see it from the beginning and let it play out. It's one of those plays where mechanically we can get in trouble real quick. And so do we have any ineligibles downfield? Right, we got this. Go
Didn't
ahead.
look like it.
Yeah, it didn't look like it. And why not?
Because 75 drops back, doesn't go downfield. He's covered. He was covered anyway, which he needs to be for this formation to be legal.
Exactly. Right, we've got 2 on over here. So this guy is not eligible anyway. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 in the backfield. This guy's an eligible receiver who's not covered. And let the magic happen. So as a back judge, right, in this play, your initial key is actually over here in this bunch, isn't it? Except for the fact that what? That guy's not an eligible receiver. So your trips are actually over here. So you're actually supposed to be covering this guy. Just one of those things, right? Where from a system perspective, how many times do you check the numbers of the receivers that are standing up to see which guy you should be covering? I'm not saying that you shouldn't be doing that, but the question is, are you doing that? Right? As a deep wing, are you paying attention to what those eligible numbers are that are coming to the line? If you aren't, maybe that's something you should be doing. I know for sure as the line of scrimmage officials, you're definitely checking to see who's on and who's off, and seeing these 2 guys in the same line definitely should raise some eyebrows. Although if we were doing our homework, we would have noticed that 75 was running at you to tell you I'm on. Just one of those things. Very, very bizarre. Any questions on that play?
Hey, Billy.
Oh.
So how often at the Division I level do coaches actually like talk to you about a play like this coming up or something? Like before the game starts.
So every now and then they'll say, we have a play where the tackle lines up outside, but doesn't go downfield. And that's how they would explain this. They wouldn't say what he was doing. Like, they wouldn't draw out the play or anything. They would just say, tackle lines up outside in a bunch formation, but he doesn't go downfield. Like, is the rest of the formation legal? Yes. Okay. Now, what I try to do is, we actually had this this week. The coach described our formation, and I just asked for him to. The only thing I wanted to know is where the eligible receivers were. So we don't want to be, as officials, right? We don't want to be responsible for information like, well, tell me the name of the play or tell me what the play looks like, right? We don't want to get too deep in that, because that, coaches are very, very temperamental and concerned about, officials giving information out. And now you have information that you need to control. So we don't want to get into that. All the question we want to know is, we want to make sure the formation is legal. And, if anything else, we can ask, well, where are the eligible receivers? And that should be enough for us to be able to talk to our line of scrimmage officials to get the play right. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Yep. It's just interesting to hear how pre-games kind of go in these kind of situations at the different levels of football. So yeah, thanks for that.
No worries. Was there another question? I think someone else was going to ask.
Yeah, Billy, it's not really related to this play. It's more with scrimmage kicks and field goals and tries. As a line scrimmage guy, trying to take a step back into the defensive backfield and get those two numbers that are on the end of the line to make sure if we have a bad snap and people go downfield and somebody catches the pass and nobody knows where it came from. Typically not typically, but do try to make sure that I know that who is on the end of the line.
Well, I got a play for you. $20 to you, Jim. Here we go. Let's talk about it. Where is it? There's the one. There it is. Bang. So, everyone's favorite play. All right, Jim, how are you covering this?
Yeah. So I'm gonna, like you said, step back and make sure that I get numbers that are closest to me of that who's going to be eligible. As far as that, then coming back in and trying to say those numbers to myself a couple times to make sure that that's who is on the end of the line or who might be eligible as an H-back or a back over to my side that way too. If I can, I will try to get that next man in, just because sometimes that tackle position will sneak out.
And do you communicate that to anyone else on the crew, or is that something you hold on to and then if they go downfield, you'll mention it?
These situations, the only thing I can do is hold that for information myself. As soon as I try to start telling other people, things happen and not paying attention to what's going on the field.
Sure. Now, this is a general question for everyone, and Jim, don't go anywhere yet. So, in this situation, who is responsible to know eligible and ineligible numbers? Not all at once.
Well, it should be umpires.
Right. Should be the umpire. So we're gonna stick this guy right here with figuring out who's on the hashes on either side of him. Hopefully he's got that thing where he can move his eyes in both directions without checking things out. Yeah, it's not an easy situation. And more often this was a very interesting situation because usually for swinging gates, the swinging gate usually all ends up being on this side, and then they all kind of run back over. But this was an unusual one because they're split. So these guys are on the line, those guys are on the line. So the first question I'd like to ask is this a legal kick formation?
Well, it's not that a kick will be made, but there is a holder and a kicker within 7 yards from the line of scrimmage.
So we'll say there's a holder and kicker, but it's definitely a not immediately clear a kick's going to happen. So we're gonna stick with the not illegal kick formation.
Correct.
Super. So if they're not an illegal kick formation, then they don't get the numbering exception, correct?
Correct.
All right. So now the things get complicated. Let's see what happens here.
I can't tell from this video, snapper got is he down on the ball? Is anybody locked in at that point?
When this starts, so the snapper is on the ball as we speak.
Okay.
So he's got a hand on the ball, and then to make things interesting, he's going to snap the ball that way.
Of course he is.
Of course he is. There you go. All right, guys. So what's the question we got to ask ourselves? You know the answer, Jim. What do we got to ask?
Who's got goal line responsibility? Line of scrimmage guys got to get to the goal line.
We got that. That's for sure. That's definitely part of it. So
We have enough bigs.
do we have enough bigs? Is there enough ineligible receivers on the field, right? Is this a legal scrimmage kick formation? Or I'm sorry, a legal scrimmage formation, scrimmage play. Right? Never mind the fact, was there a hold on this play or whatever else? Gosh, we have no idea. By our mechanics, I know there's some folks asking the question, well, why are these guys under the uprights if we're in a swinging gate formation? And the reason is, as Jim pointed out, we have a kicker holder. So by our conference philosophy, if there's a kicker holder, our deeps are going to be in position for a field goal, and we will work the play from here. So what's that mean? That means that basically our line of scrimmage officials are on an island, and specifically our superstar line of scrimmage official over here is responsible for all of these players. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players all over there. Now, hopefully our center judge is going to get some backside responsibility to this, and our back judge on this side is going to use his eagle eyes to be able to cover the play, and our umpire might have some opinions as well, but this is where we're covering football. This is not in the mechanics manual, that's for sure. So we get the snap, right? We've got a potential as we look at this. Oh my goodness, is his knee on the ground? Is it not? Right? That's a concern. Then we get this run, he's in, and then as Nick brought up, all right, did we have enough ineligibles on the field? So who's checking that out and who knows the answer? Well, I can tell you there wasn't anybody on the field that did. I asked the question and I got 2 palms. I don't know. So using the system, how can we find out an answer?
Is this a reviewable foul? It is.
It is not by rule.
And would you consider this subjective or objective information? I think it's subjective, so I'm not sure if it's really good to use OTO on this, but I don't know. What do you think?
Do you keep the offense on the field and making sure you get a good count, but then that typically won't matter because you don't know if somebody might have lined up somewhere else.
Right. Yep. So here we go. We call this is where we talk about the system. All right. So all good questions, all very, very astute. Love it. So first things first, this is not a reviewable play. So replay cannot get involved and stop the game. You don't have enough eligibles on the field, or you do. But we can, second thing, thankfully, FBS football, we have TV timeouts. So we go to a television break. which is going to happen, every so often. And I've got 2 minutes and 30 seconds to figure out an answer. And how long do we have to call a foul or fix an official's error?
Next snap.
Next snap. That's right. By rule. By rule. So now I can ask the officials on the field, hey, do you guys, right? We can use what we call our mental replay. We can use our mental replay and say, okay, guys, who saw how many 55 through 79 players we had on the field? Excuse me, 50, not 55s, 50 through 79. And they could say, I have no idea. All right. So now you go, all right, well, how many guys are on the line? So the good news is I've got my replay guys upstairs. They've got video. And what they do is I just asked over the O2O, guys, how many players numbered 50 through 79 were on the line of scrimmage? It's a question. I'm not asking them to call a foul. I'm just asking for information. Just like, what color is the jersey? What was the number of the guy who held on the right side? I'm just asking for information, not for confirmation of a foul. So we look, what do we got? We're going to count them. I got 56 for sure. I got 58 for sure. I got 78 and 72. Did we see anybody else out there that was on the line of scrimmage?
No.
No. Right. So, based on that, what can we say? We could say they did not. They had 4 players, 50 through 79 on the line. Now, do you believe it? Well, I can't run over to the monitor and check, but I can ask, tell me what their numbers were. All right. Their numbers were 56, 58, 78, and 72. And there were no other bigs. There were no other ineligibles on the line of scrimmage. And the answer is no, there were not. Okay. I can take that information and say, gentlemen, we have a foul. So what we're going to do is tell the line of scrimmage officials, please let both coaches know that we're taking that score off the board. We had an illegal formation by the offense, and we are going to reattempt the try. And Nick, you were there. What did the coach tell you?
Well, my coach was the coach that was scored on, so he thought it was great.
Yeah. And on the other side, the coach said, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. So he knew he didn't have enough eligibles on the line, ineligibles on the line, once he was told of the foul. So that made it pretty straightforward. But as we talk about the system and understanding what are the tools that are available to us to solve problems, that was something we were able to do to solve the problem. Now, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Both our center judge and our umpire are checking those players as they come off of the sideline. So similar to what we do when we're going to do a free kick to check whether or not there are players with the same number. If you check as they're coming off of the sideline, you will have the answer to your question instead of having to do the scan and guess and hope that replay gets a good angle. Because that's not going to work if you don't have a replay game, right? Thoughts, feelings, emotions? Cool. Let's see, Nick, do we
I
have?
got
Go ahead.
one more question.
Go ahead, Jim.
So let's say you go to the rule is legally snapped. You can fix it till it's legally snapped. Does the ball being kicked on a kickoff count?
Yes.
So if you miss, so kicking the ball and putting it in play live is also snapping the ball.
Yes.
So you fix it after it got kicked.
Yep. Nope. That's over now.
Gotcha. Cool.
Good question. Sweet. So let's see. We want to talk about our replay. What was this one? This is our yeah, that's good communication on the pass play. I tell you what, I'm gonna give you a good one here. Let's talk about conversation on our where's my clock situation? There's my clock situation. All right. So we're going to talk about a clock situation play, and then our everybody on the crew having an opportunity to talk. So we got a 14-20 game. Obviously, we have two teams that are fighting for potential bowl game eligibility, and we're late in the game, right? Getting near 2 minutes. We have a 3rd and 10 with the team that's down in possession of the ball. So we got a lot going on there. On the right side here, well, left side of the offense, right side defensively, we got trips up top. So deep wing, one back judge. We got a tight end situation over here. Deep wing's got that. Got it back. Both the line of scrimmage officials got that. So far, so good. Super. So let's see how this goes down. Oh, wait, other important point. Toledo, out of timeouts. Team in possession with the ball. No more timeouts. Also important. All right, let's let it run. So we're going to have a situation. So we had our back switch sides, no big deal. Still good. Quarterback's looking back. We got pressure. Now we have a runner. Runner runs, gets to near the sideline. All right. So what's our time on the clock? Over 2, right? We're at 2:13. One thing we want to talk about. So we see the system and the process working, right? We've got our line of scrimmage official killing the clock in position for the spot where the ball crosses the sideline. We have a deep official who's coming in, clean the play up. We have the referee coming in, making sure we're taking care of the franchise, getting the quarterback out the sideline, making sure everybody's safe. All right. So what should happen with the clock? Clock should start. That's right. We're going to start the clock. All right. So we're going to get a nice little replay of this. Quarterback runs, nice and pretty, good stuff. As we look at this play, right, we see the referee's got good eyes on the quarterback, but not in the play. We've got a potential high hit on the quarterback, but right, we see shoulder first, into the chest, not into the head. Head to the side, defensive head to the side. So we do not have an indicator for targeting. We can see that our deep wing, most important, our official right here, right? The most important thing I could tell you right now is sometimes you have to take a clear view instead of a good view. All right. A good view obviously would be if our deep official was somewhere in here, but he's got a clear view of this action. So you'll take a clear view instead of a good view. That's okay. Referee has looked through here as well. He's engaged in the play, making sure he's got good eyesight on what's happening. And then finally, we've got the line of scrimmage official also with good eyesight. So we've got this play all nicely squared in. We got 3 sets of eyes, and potentially now we got help, right? The back judge could be secondary help. We got tertiary help from the umpire, but this play is well boxed in. So we know we've got a line to gain, potentially, right? There's our little marker right there. We got a line to gain in play. So is this play reviewable?
Yes.
Yes, because there's a line to gain involved. All right, so now the questions we have to ask ourselves. Where was the line to gain and where did the ball go out? Okay, so if we go back to the previous spot was the 20, it was 3rd and 10. The line to gain is the 30, the big line. As we look at the play, where did the runner go out? Did they get to the big line or didn't they? That's not going to be the look to get us there. But we could probably look from here, hopefully, and see that definitely did not get to the big line. Although we're off, we'll probably get some better looks. I'll give Matty Ice that deal. But I mean, we can see from the feet, right? The feet didn't get to the line, so the ball definitely didn't get there. So what's going to be important? Well, we had the clock run when we came back to the line of scrimmage, right? Clock is running, and now replay stops the game. So what's the time on the clock? 1:51. So we're under 2. What are our rules about under 2? Under 2, if we're going to reverse this, we've got all kinds of things going on, right? We're potentially putting time back on the clock. And since the runner was out of bounds, right, the clock's going to start when? On the snap or on the ready? If we're under 2, it should start on the snap, right?
Correct.
Correct. So as we go through this play and we get through the replay, though, we're going to realize a couple of things. One, the line to gain was not made. Right, there's our look. So we're going to say he's definitely short. And we're going to put the ball a yard short of the line to gain. So now the question is, do we put time back on the clock? And the answer is going to be no.
No.
Right? And the question, and now we're all asking ourselves, well, why the hell not? Well, because when we go back, this play ended
Over 2.
over 2. That's right. So it's not about when the game was stopped. It's about when the play stopped, the end of the play. So this is a casebook play. And the casebook says this play ended under 2. The clock was running when we stopped the game. So since the play ended over 2, we're going to come back with a hot clock. We're going to put the ball down. We're not going to reset the time. So why does this matter? Is because we make the announcement. And that the runner was stopped short of the line to gain. Therefore, the ball will be placed at the 29-yard line, position 1, 4th down. The clock will start on my 30-yard line is much like the. All right, so we feel good about that. We got it all out. We're nice and comfortable here at home. Cooler heads prevail. But see something, say something, right? So what's going to happen? We're going to get everybody lined up. We're going to get the teams out the sidelines. Everybody's ready to go. We're feeling good. And the crew's going.
Run it out and get the win today. Now, I'd keep it right in Tucker Gleason's hand. I'd have him run it.
And what's going to end up happening is that our side judge is going to come in and he's like, hey, buddy, I'm not the smartest guy on the planet, but I'm a clock guy, and I'm just telling you, we're under 2 minutes. And I haven't heard a good reason why we're not this clock isn't starting on the snap. Now, we have to have the conversation about, what's the rule and what we're doing and whatever else. But hey, do you have the cojones and the belief and understanding in the rules in your job to step up and say, hey, something doesn't feel right. Let's get this right. This matters, right? This is a 6-point game. This is going to make or break whether or not this team potentially could win the game. We don't want to take time away if we shouldn't be, and we want to get this right. So we come together, we have the conversation, and the talk is, hey, we're under 2. So we're going to check with replay. get the rule verification. Line judge is going to come in, and we're going to verify and validate. Hey, let's make sure we've got this right. And the answer is yes, we do. And so what are we going to do now? Don't just have a conversation and blow your whistle and snap the ball, because everybody's sitting home trying to figure out what the heck's going on. So we're gonna make an announcement. We're gonna let the world know, hey, this is what we're gonna do.
If he would have been tackled at 2:01, the clock would run on the play for ready, but he got knocked out of bounds.
Clock will start on my whistle. Here we go.
No, so he is going to start it on his whistle.
Damn right I am. Now, was that the best announcement ever? No. No, if I could do that over, I would definitely talk about the fact that the play ended over 2 minutes, and therefore the clock will start on my whistle. But the point is, we did all the steps, both with replay and on the field, to make sure we didn't get this wrong. And the point is, we trust the system, right? We were being good crewmates. You know, we could be arrogant and angry about it. Hey, replay told us to do whatever, get the hell out of here, and let's keep this moving. That's not what we did, because we want to make sure that even as a part of what this system is and trusting it, we have to trust each other that if there's a question, we can get it right amongst ourselves. So, yeah, any questions on that play? Sweet. Well, I greatly appreciate the time, and I hope for everyone that was online, this was some value-added discussion. Thank you for Nick offering up the venue, and appreciate everyone's patience in going over a little.
Thanks, Billy. You're certainly not the only person that would have done something differently on that last play, but hey, what are you going to do? Thanks everybody for being on tonight. As a reminder, in 2 weeks, we're going to meet and we're going to share plays similar to what Billy was doing. But if you've got plays, either put them in the Google Doc that was in the email that I sent out, or just email me. If you have Huddle, you'll have to download and send me if you can. If you are in the COC, I can get video. If you're in another league that uses DV Sport, I can get video. But please be prepared to come on the 2nd, I believe is the date, and share the plays and look for feedback from everybody, so we can all help you get better. So that's the plan. But that's what I got tonight. I appreciate everybody being on. Thank you, Billy, for presenting to the group. Everybody have a great night, have a great week, and good luck this weekend.